While Silas was having an affair, I was shopping for a grave. We had been together for 7 years, and he always seemed to love me deeply. It wasn't until I was diagnosed with cancer that I realized he had been hiding another woman. While he was secretly seeing her, I was alone, enduring the pain of my illness. He thought he was being clever, promising me a grand wedding, even going so far as to order 2 identical rings. But it didn't matter anymore. I would be buried on the day of our wedding. Miss Nina, this is the best plot in the city. We will claim that you are buried here. I nodded and asked softly. If the other party insists on seeing the body, don't worry. The staff member smiled. Our fake death service will take care of everything. No one will find out. I bought this plot and left, taking out my phone to look at the photo again. A month ago, I received a photo from a stranger, showing my husband, Silas, in an intimate embrace with another woman. Countless nights when he claimed to be working overtime or attending business dinners, he was actually with another woman. Many times, he would be sweet talking to me on the phone with one hand, while holding someone else's hand with the other. After 7 years together, I had helped him go from a poor boy to the CEO of a large corporation. He had always treated me with deep affection, and on the day the company went public, he swore in front of everyone that he would give me a grand wedding. At that time, I thought my suffering had finally ended. He was always very high profile in expressing his love, with fireworks, amusement park closures, and jewelry. Everyone envied me, thinking I was lucky to have found such a perfect man. Even I had never doubted him. I never thought that this man who claimed to love me and couldn't live without me would cheat on me. In addition to the cemetery procedures, the staff also gave me a forged cancer diagnosis. I examined it carefully, my fingers tracing over my name. I wonder if he will be as heartbroken as he swore when I leave. When I got home, the house was dark. Without thinking, I reached out to turn on the light, and suddenly there was the sound of fireworks, followed by confetti, and Silas appeared in front of me, kneeling on one knee. Surprise? Darling. Silas was in a suit, his hair styled, his face handsome, and in his deep eyes, there was only me. He held my hand in one hand and magically pulled out an exquisite ring box from his pocket with the other. I was too poor before to give you a proper ring. This is a perfect pink diamond that I've worked hard to get, a ring made just for you. He put the beautiful ring on my finger and said softly, Nina, you are always worth the most unique things to me. I looked at him quietly, opened my mouth, but couldn't make a sound. He seemed so sincere, but I was full of confusion. How could one person be so sincere to 2 people at the same time? An hour ago, that woman sent me another photo. It wasn't until today that I found out her name was Octavia, a small-time celebrity and the spokesperson for Silas's new product. In the photo, she was wearing a pink bunny uniform, with striking red marks from her neck down, and most eye-catching was the identical diamond ring on her finger. This was Silas's so-called unique. I remained calm and pulled my hand back. Silas. I smiled. You've always given me gifts, and I'm going to give you one too. He was stunned. I said, but this gift can't be opened until a week later. It will be more meaningful then. Silas was a little puzzled, but didn't ask any more questions, just gently embraced me. I'll do whatever Nina wants. I'll wait 7 days to open this surprise. I smiled and handed him the gift box. Silas, I hope you can still smile in 7 days. The next day, Silas deliberately put aside all his company affairs and enthusiastically wanted to accompany me to try on a wedding dress. As soon as I got out of the car in front of the bridal shop, he quickly walked around to the door and gently held the roof of the car with one hand to prevent me from bumping my head when I got up. The salesperson who had been waiting for a long time immediately greeted us, with a hint of envy in her tone. Miss Nina, the custom-made wedding dress for Mr. Silas is ready. Would you like to try it on now? I looked at the man beside me without speaking. I had once dreamed of marrying him in a beautiful wedding dress one day, but I knew I would never wait for that day again. Silas rubbed my head affectionately and turned to tell the salesperson to bring over the $100 million wedding dress. Noticing that the man beside me suddenly stiffened, I subconsciously looked up following his gaze, and my eyes fell directly on the face of the staff member who was carrying the wedding dress. It was her. Octavia, the female star. She was wearing a professional suit, but it made her face look extremely charming. Silas's eyes dodged a little. "Nina, you go try on the wedding dress to see if it fits." Then he couldn't wait to push me into the fitting room. I suppressed the soreness in my heart and calmly tried on the wedding dress, but as soon as I bent down, tears uncontrollably flowed down my face. In the next fitting room, there were muffled and suppressed sounds. "You're crazy. I told you not to appear in front of Nina, she's my bottom line." Before the words fell, there was only a vague sound of kissing. "I'm sorry she didn't see it, did she? I won't do it next time. The soundproofing of this fitting room is very good, don't worry." Then, the sound of the fabric being torn came. It seemed like the woman was doing it on purpose, her body hitting the wall separated from me again and again, making a dull thud with each impact, each one like a heavy hammer hitting my heart. I don't know how I ended up wearing this wedding dress in the end, but when I came out of the fitting room, my eyes were already swollen. Silas had already packed up and was waiting for me outside. When he saw me, a look of amazement appeared in his eyes. "Nina, you're so beautiful, I'll be able to marry you home soon." His tone of affection was completely different from the madness just now. The salesperson was also very tactful and congratulated us on our marriage and long life together. Silas smiled and nodded. But he didn't notice that I had never spoken from beginning to end, because only I knew that we would never have a future. Looking at his sincere appearance, I suddenly looked forward to seeing his reaction on the wedding day. Silas's phone rang and a look of lust spread across his face after he glanced at it. Noticing my gaze, he quickly put away his phone and came over, a hint of apology on his face. "Nina, there was a problem with a project at the company. Go ahead." Before leaving, he kissed me on the forehead and turned to leave without looking back. After leaving the bridal shop, I didn't go home and wandered aimlessly on the street for a long time. Until I received another text message from Octavia. In the photo, the hotel floor was littered with pieces of a wedding dress that had been violently torn apart by a man and a pile of popped balloons. "Nina, you're clearly his wife, so why did you end up here like a hungry wolf, unable to get enough to eat?" Although I was mentally prepared, my heart felt like it was being tightly grasped when I saw the photo, and even breathing was difficult. I stared at the photo masochistically for over an hour. When the sun went down, I walked home alone. When we were together, he promised that no matter how busy he was, he would never stay out overnight. But in the past few months, he had been coming home later and later. This time, he didn't come back all night. I didn't question him or make a fuss, but silently took care of everything myself. I was about to destroy all traces of myself in this world, and I wouldn't leave any memories for him. I rummaged through my belongings and gathered all the gifts Silas had given me, including that expensive ring. I burned them and discarded them with my own hands. Countless love letters he wrote to me were also turned to ashes. Silas returned home in the morning, holding a bouquet of flowers and my favorite breakfast. "I'm so sorry, Nina. I worked so late last night that I just fell asleep at the company." His eyes were steady, without any guilt. I had been fooled by him for so long, and now I realized how poor his acting was. He could actually deceive me completely. Today was originally the day we planned to get our marriage license. I knew Octavia wouldn't let us get the license smoothly. All the way there, Silas couldn't hide his excitement as he described our love story to me. From when we met to when he proposed. He remembered the details that I couldn't remember clearly. I followed his lead and made a few perfunctory replies, but there was a hint of sarcasm in my smile. After telling so many lies, he even deceived himself. As soon as we arrived at the Civil Affairs Bureau, I received a message from Octavia. It was a pregnancy test photo. "Nina, guess what? Who do you think is more important to him now, you or me?" The next second, the man who hung up the phone came over quickly, with apology on his face again. "Nina, I'm sorry, there's something else going on at the company." Before he could finish, I naturally continued. Go ahead, work is important. Anyway, since we're going to get married, it doesn't matter when we get the license. Looking at his departing figure, the last bit of love I had for him completely vanished. In the following days, he didn't come home, and he reported every day. With pictures and locations, it couldn't be more real. But I knew he hadn't gone to the company at all, and had been with Octavia all the time, almost emptying the baby store. The night before the wedding, he finally came back. When he approached me, I pretended to be asleep and avoided him. He didn't continue, but just hugged me as he used to. At 4 a.m, he went to the hotel to prepare for the wedding ceremony, and before he left, he kissed my forehead. Nina, wait for me to marry you. The door closed and I opened my eyes. 10 minutes later, an unmarked car stopped outside. I burned down the house behind me and got into the car alone. Silas, never see you again. Silas, dressed in a neat suit and holding a bouquet of flowers, went from full of anticipation to gradual panic at the wedding scene. He kept looking at his watch, with fine beads of sweat on his forehead. The calls he made went unanswered, only the cold mechanical prompts. Silas suddenly felt a sharp pain in his heart, as if something had been completely ripped out of his life. Just then, his assistant approached nervously, lowering his voice to inform him that his house was on fire. Silas's head went buzz, his vision darkened, and the bouquet in his hand fell to the ground listlessly. Ignoring the astonished looks of the guests, he rushed out like a madman and drove home at high speed. The car crashed into the nearby fence, and he had a moment of tinnitus and dizziness, with blood dripping from his forehead. Ignoring the pain in his body, he remembered Nina was waiting for him. So he got up and ran forward with all his might, covered in dirt. Along the way, he flashed through all the beautiful moments they had been together over the years. His Nina would be fine. Silas didn't know how long he had been running, but when he arrived at the scene, there was only a body covered with a white cloth lying quietly there. The staff looked solemn, slowly walked in front of him, bowed deeply, and said in a low but clear voice, "Mr. Silas, please accept my condolences." Silas felt like this sentence was like a sharp knife, instantly hitting his anger point. His eyes were red with anger. He suddenly reached out and grabbed the collar of the other party, roaring, "What nonsense are you talking about? Get out of here." After saying that, he violently threw the staff away, took a few steps forward, and trembled as he lifted the white cloth. The next second, as if all his strength had been drained, his legs went weak, and he fell to the ground with a thump. He stared wide-eyed, muttering in disbelief. Nina, Nina. How could this charred body covered in burn marks be his beloved Nina? In his memory, she loved beauty so much that if she scratched her finger a little, her eyes would turn red and she would whine in pain, for fear of leaving a scar and ruining her delicate appearance. His hands trembled uncontrollably, and he leaned in almost frantically to check, his hands groping around, desperately trying to find a flaw, a piece of evidence to prove that this was not his Nina. But as time passed by minute, his heart sank, and the person in front of him was undoubtedly Nina. He tremblingly reached out and tried to hold her hand one last time, but his fingertips only touched a piece of cold, stiff skin, and he couldn't hold it in the end. Nina, don't scare me. Hurry up and get up, this joke is not funny at all. The last words were a bit of a cry, but the person on the ground didn't move at all. He had only a stubborn obsession in his eyes, and he just knelt there, holding her tightly in his hands. The staff couldn't bear to look, and were ready to take the body away. Silas subconsciously fought with them, until they put a contract in front of him. It had Nina's signature on it. She had entrusted her affairs to them. Even the cemetery had been chosen. Seeing Silas almost go mad, the staff member sighed and handed him Nina's phone and a box, whispering, "These are the belongings we found at the scene of the deceased. Take a look." Silas was startled and took them with trembling hands. As if he had found some hope, he held the box reverently. Layer after layer of packaging was removed, and when he opened the box, a cancer report appeared before his eyes. No! Impossible, impossible. Mr. Silas, according to the report, Miss Nina only had half a month from the time she was diagnosed with cancer to the end of her life. If it had been discovered earlier, Miss Nina wouldn't have. The staff member didn't continue. Cancer? Ended her own life? Silas's tears finally fell, but he didn't believe it. How could Nina, who loved him so much, bear to leave him? He opened his phone, and the screen was full of his and Octavia's intimate photos and videos. His face turned as white as paper, his body swayed, and only one thought remained in his mind, so she knew everything. Octavia, unaware of what had happened, continued to send messages to Nina. Nina, you're so cheap. Even like this, you're still unwilling to let go, aren't you? Fine, you pretend not to see it, right? When my son is born, I'll be the real Mrs. Silas, and see what you'll do to compete with me. These words made Silas's vision go dark, and he felt like he was being hit hard in the chest, unable to breathe. Ah! He roared uncontrollably, the pain like a surging tide, completely swallowing him up and knocking him unconscious. He thought he could easily juggle between Nina and Octavia. He thought he was very cautious, and as for Octavia, he just wanted to have a fling, thinking that he wouldn't bring Octavia in front of Nina, nor would Nina notice it. However, what he didn't expect was that Nina found out about it all in the end. She was so afraid of pain, but she left so decisively. Even the cemetery was bought so far away, meaning she didn't want to see him even after death, the farther away the better, never wanting to see him again. Silas suddenly recalled what Nina had said when she agreed to his proposal. Nina said at that time, "I hate betrayal and deception the most. If one day I find out that you have hidden things from me or lied to me, I will disappear from your side forever and you will never find me." At that time, he was full of spring breeze and his heart was full of expectations for the future. He was confident that he would protect her for the rest of her life and never let her suffer any grievances. He wanted to show her his heart. Who would have thought that later, the wind direction would change, and his brothers would keep pouring him aphrodisiacs, persuading him to seize the day. The daily chores of firewood, rice, oil, salt and sauce dulled his passion, and life was as bland as water. The outside world was full of beautiful women who were constantly throwing themselves at him and sending him secret signals. Under these temptations, he lost his original intention and plunged into the sea of wine and women. With a little effort from Octavia, he was hooked. His brothers covered for him, Nina was kept in the dark, and she still had her heart set on him, immersed in this false and gentle world. He became more and more confident that he could control the situation. But he forgot that Nina was never a meek person. After waking up in the hospital, Silas was informed that Nina's funeral had been arranged according to her wishes. Octavia stood aside, her eyes filled with undisguised glee and triumph as she feigned comfort. "Silas, the baby and I will be with you from now on." Her words enraged him, and he slapped her across the face. "What did you say to Nina?" The sudden slap stunned Octavia. Silas's face hardened as he slapped her several more times. Octavia's face was swollen, and her lips were split and bleeding. She cried out in terror. "Silas, let me explain, Silas gritted his teeth and grabbed Octavia by the neck. "Didn't I tell you, Nina is my bottom line? You can be as willful and as troublesome as you want, but don't go near her and upset her." Octavia gasped for breath, not daring to look at Silas. Yes, from the very first day she seduced Silas into bed. Silas had warned her that if she dared to tell Nina, she would be dead. At first, she didn't dare let Nina know, but as Silas spoiled her more and more, she became more confident. So, she deliberately guided Nina to discover Silas's infidelity. But she never expected that Nina, that bitch who seemed so noble on the surface, was actually just as despicable deep down. Knowing that her man was cheating, she actually endured it without saying anything, and even went ahead with the wedding as if nothing had happened. How could she bear it? So she continued to send messages to annoy Nina. She thought that once Nina was dead, she would be Mrs. Silas. But she still underestimated Nina's place in Silas's heart. "Speak up!" Silas roared angrily when Octavia didn't speak. Octavia was terrified. "Silas, I really didn't. You're still lying?" Silas's patience was exhausted, and the strength in his hands increased. He grabbed Octavia's swollen face and squeezed so hard that her jaw almost dislocated. His handsome face was almost distorted with rage. His voice was cold and terrifying. "You, a whore, dare to make Nina unhappy?" Octavia felt her vision go dark. Her lower abdomen ached like a knife, and now she was terrified and full of regret. Why was she so greedy and wanted to be Mrs. Silas? As long as she obediently gave birth to his child, she would have countless riches and honors. She was just too impatient. "Silas, I'm pregnant with your child, please let me go." Octavia touched her belly, trying to use the child to awaken Silas's love. Silas's gaze followed Octavia's hand and landed on her belly. After a brief pause, he released Octavia, took out his phone, and ordered his assistant. "Arrange the best gynecologist and perform an operation on Miss Octavia. Oh, and don't use anesthesia." Octavia felt something was wrong. "Silas, what kind of surgery are you going to do to me?" "A life-ending surgery." Silas looked at her. Octavia's eyes widened in shock and disbelief. "Silas, you can't do this. You can't take my baby away." She covered her stomach and tried to run. Silas grabbed her and threw her to the ground with a slight effort. Now she didn't care about the pain, she looked at Silas fearfully and begged. "Silas, I know I was wrong, but the child is innocent. Please don't be so cruel and take him away, okay? Please." As long as the child was still there, she, Octavia, would still have a chance to turn things around. Silas looked down at her and smiled creepily. "Am I being cruel? You sent those messages to Nina, making her sad and heartbroken, isn't that cruel? Besides, I only like children born to Nina, and I'll only have children with Nina." Octavia shook her head repeatedly, apologizing incessantly. "I won't dare anymore, Silas. I won't dare anymore, please forgive me." She trembled, clutching the man's pants tightly with her hands, her eyes filled with pleading, and she begged him tearfully not to be so heartless. But Silas was like a cold statue, his expression never wavered, not moved at all. Seeing the man so heartless, Octavia's hands loosened helplessly, her body slumped, and her hair fell down, covering her desperate face. For a moment, she suddenly looked up and sneered. "Silas, do you really think I killed Nina? Don't deceive yourself." Octavia looked at him mockingly. "Who was it who was so eager to drag me into bed when you first coveted my body? Who was it who showered me with all kinds of favors, expensive jewelry, and took me to meet your brothers and family with great excitement, declaring in public that you could give me everything except a title?" Her emotions became more and more agitated, and her voice rose. "And who was it who left Nina aside time and time again and was eager to be with me? Who tacitly allowed me to get pregnant with your child? I dared to provoke her, wasn't it because you were supporting me and indulging me behind the scenes? Now that she's dead, you're blaming me for everything." With a glance from Silas, Octavia had no chance to struggle anymore. She was dragged away like a dead fish. Silas was left alone in the ward, and he lowered his head, looking at the ring on his ring finger. He suddenly remembered that a few days ago, Nina wasn't wearing the ring. At the wedding dress shop that day. Actually, she had seen and heard everything. But at that time, she didn't question him. How disappointed she must have been in him. Silas didn't dare to think about Nina's mood at that time. Just as he couldn't find the words to describe his feelings at the moment. He sat on the ground in despair, covering his face. Tears kept flowing from between his fingers. He choked. "Nina, I know I was wrong, please come back to me." As soon as the news of Nina's death spread, the fans who had been shipping her and Silas were heartbroken, full of resentment and suspicion. They absolutely did not believe that those two light words, cancer, were the cause of death, and their anger drove them to search for clues everywhere, determined to find out the truth. Then, solid evidence of Silas's affair with Octavia was exposed one after another: ambiguous text messages, private photos, and cheating videos, each one more eye-opening than the last. With further investigation, the timeline matched up. Silas had been cheating when Nina had already been diagnosed with a serious illness. It turned out that she had been betrayed step by step and driven to despair, ending her own life. Insiders also added fuel to the fire, anonymously releasing Octavia's pregnancy test report and those provocative messages to Nina. Netizens were instantly blown up, and they swarmed to Octavia, Silas, and Silas's company's Weibo, with the comment section filled with angry accusations. Overnight, the situation took a turn for the worse. Octavia faced a huge amount of liquidated damages, while Silas's world also collapsed and his years-long persona of a loving husband collapsed, with partners and shareholders all withdrawing. Silas's company's stock price plummeted, and it was on the verge of collapse. Silas, however, drowned himself in alcohol every day while holding Nina's photo, in a daze. In the small, cloud-kissed town in the south, I could almost reach out and touch the clouds from my window. I stretched, threw my hair into a ponytail, and walked the 10 minutes to the town's only elementary school. Along the way, the local residents and students greeted me warmly. "Pearl teacher, my family made some rice cakes. I'll send you some later." "Good morning, Pearl teacher." That's right, I had a new name now. Pearl. For the rest of my life, I would be Pearl. I never deliberately sought out news of Silas. But it was the fake death company that told me he was still looking for me. A few days ago, the company that helped me plan my fake death called me. "I'm sorry, Miss Nina, you don't need to pay the remaining balance. Mr. Silas has found our company. This is the first time we've encountered this kind of problem in our work. It's our mistake, and we apologize for the inconvenience caused to you." I hung up the phone and sighed. I never thought Silas would be so persistent, firmly believing that I hadn't died in the fire. He even launched a $1 million reward through the media. As long as someone could help him find me, he was willing to give the person $1 million or more. Other netizens who had initially cursed him began to say how good Silas was as a man. He had only made a mistake that most people would make. Just looking at how much he loved me, he deserved to be forgiven. However, I scoffed at that. A man who cheats only does it once or countless times. And since he chose to cheat and betray, he should be prepared to lose. Now, performing this belated deep affection, who is he showing it to? This incident also caused quite a stir in the small town, and some parents began to look at me differently. I knew I couldn't stay in this place anymore. Turning around, I quit my teaching job in the town and started heading to a more remote mountainous area. Even though I had done so much, half a year later, Silas found me again. He had lost a lot of weight and was standing there in a shirt, looking almost gaunt. The moment our eyes met, he saw me and his dim eyes lit up slightly as he walked towards me quickly. His eyes were red from excitement. "Nina." He called my name hoarsely. I avoided his hand that was about to help me with my bag and said, "You've got the wrong person." He took a step forward and grabbed my hand. "Nina, I know I was wrong. I've been looking for you for so long, I'm so afraid I'll never find you again." My gaze fell on Silas's fingers, and I said coldly, "Let go." Hurt by my eyes, he reluctantly let go of my hand and repeated, "Nina, can we talk?" I don't know why Silas was so persistent in finding me, confident that I was just throwing a tantrum and would come back. But, looking at the expectation in his eyes, I said coldly, "No." Silas choked. "Nina, I love you." His love was so cheap. A person doesn't suddenly go bad unless they are a rotten person to begin with. With every word he uttered, it was as if countless long, stinking bugs were crawling out of his face, then his neck, and then spreading to his entire body, until the whole person was completely transformed into countless wriggling bugs. I felt utterly disgusted. Disgusted by his filth and stench. Even more disgusted with my former self for falling in love with such a rotten person. "Nina, we've been together for so many years, I love you so much, I can give you my life, why are you so cruel to me? Yes, I was blinded by lust and made a mistake, but you're the only one in my heart, I've never had any other woman. You don't like Octavia, I promise she will never appear by your side from now on. Will you come home with me?" Tears welled up in Silas's eyes. Maybe he was truly regretful, but I didn't want to give him another chance to hurt me. After a long silence, I spoke. "On the day we tried on the wedding dress, I was next door, and I heard every word you said. That night, I thought about all the good things you had done for me, and also how bad I was, but my heart was completely dead after being deceived by you time and time again." Silas knelt in front of me, slapping himself repeatedly. "Nina, I didn't know. I'm sorry." I closed my eyes, and when I opened them again, my eyes were clear. "Silas, just go away, don't come looking for me again." He was stunned, looking at me helplessly. "Silas, I really don't love you anymore. Let's just end it here." He shouted like a madman. "Impossible, my Nina can't not love me. I don't believe it." Silas squatted on the ground and cried. The once steady and introverted man was now pulling his hair out, in great pain. Only I felt that he looked disgusting like this. He said he loved me, but he didn't care about my feelings and kept causing me trouble. It was as if he was the victim, using self-torture to show his deep affection and self-move. After that day, I never saw Silas again. Later I heard that after Silas went back, he lost his status as the heir of the Silas family. He lived a miserable life, and he poured all his anger on Octavia. Octavia had already resented Silas because of the sterilization surgery and had been afraid of Silas's status and had endured it all along. Later, she had a mental breakdown and simply decided to die with him. For the rest of his life, Silas could only spend it in a wheelchair and completely lost his ability to have children. The proud man, unable to bear the humiliation, dragged Octavia to his death in a sea of fire. Out of humanitarianism, I found someone to put a bouquet of flowers on Silas's grave on my behalf. As for the rest, there was nothing I could do. In this life, only blatantly favoring oneself is redemption.